Welcome to the Dave Cave. Today we are ranking Child's Play. Best to worst, the whole franchise. Let's go. Coming in at the number 8 spot, the bottom of the barrel. This really shouldn't surprise anybody in any way, shape, or form, especially if you've seen the reviews I've done. And that is going to be Seed of Chucky. This movie comes in after they did the same kind of thing with Nightmare on Elm Street, in that Chucky got a hint of being kind of goofy, and this was their this is their Freddy's Dead. Let's just lean into it. You have Chucky killing Britney Spears. You have all of the stuff with Glenda, which actually, on the last watch, wasn't too bad for me, and I kind of liked when he went full Glenda. And there's a couple little good parts in this movie. This movie isn't an absolute trash can. There are some good parts, and there are some good kills. But overall, just the way they handle the movie, they make it their own joke about themselves. It's a really hard watch for me. I don't enjoy going back to it, mostly because I enjoy Chucky as he is. I'm not trying to sound like a purist dick, but Seed of Chucky, that's just, if I don't watch it again, it's too soon. Now coming in at number 7, we have Cult of Chucky. Now, Cult of Chucky was tricky because Curse of Chucky came in. They're both direct-to-home releases. Curse was really strong, and then Cult started kind of strong, had a really great premise. I love the premise of Cult of Chucky, but then they start getting a little too silly towards the end. Like, it falls apart. To me, it completely unravels. There are awesome kills, don't get me wrong. Carnage candy all over the place. Love that aspect of it, and I love the whole idea of them, just the whole mental hospital thing. When you go back to what Chucky originally started with and how he was constantly framing Andy and other humans for murder, you throw him in a whole psych ward with crazy people, no one's going to believe them, and he can just roam free. He's got a whole part where this woman thinks he's imagining her. He's like, you fucking with me? Like, dude, it's perfect. That's this devil's playground. But because it ends on such a weak note and so like, what the hell are they gonna do? I'm still very interested to see what they do to incorporate this into the Chucky TV series, because this stuff was bananas by the end. And because it got so bananas and so convoluted, it's like, man, they're going back to Bride and Seed days, and they just did so good with Curse. For number 6, we have the remake, 2019's Child's Play. And that's not to say, even though it's coming in third from the bottom, that I don't enjoy the remake. All these middle ones in here, these ones were tough for me to really figure out where they fit, because they're all varying degrees of enjoyment for me. You know, depending on my mood, if I'm feeling kind of silly, I'll throw in Bride. If I'm feeling more serious, I'll throw in I'll throw in the original. I'll throw in these movies in different orders depending on how I'm feeling. Chucky is kind of versatile like that. But where 2019 kind of makes its spot third from the bottom for me is that towards the end, it kind of gets culty. Like when you have the hive mind Chucky going on, that lost it for me. And then there are other beats and moments that I would have handled differently in the movie. I made a whole video about that. That'll be at the end. But it could have been done better and really, really landed really well. And because of those mistakes, this movie isn't one that I go dying to go back to. That's not to say that there aren't great performances. Despite how I feel about Aubrey Plaza, her Karen Barkley is great. I like Andy. Mark Hamill does his Mark Hamill thing. He nails Chucky. I was worried about it, but he nails it. There's a lot that this movie does right, and I like that they do the little flip on the story, that you actually feel for Chucky. You feel for the relationship, and Andy's not just a victim in this. He cares with what's happening to Chucky, because in a time where Andy had no one, he had Chucky. Go back to it and watch it with those glasses on. The movie's quite a bit heavier than a lot of people gave it credit for. Coming in at number 5, we have Child's Play 3. Now this movie's a little bit strange because they took Andy Barkley, but then they didn't give us Andy Barkley again. And that's not to say that it was poorly put together, but it was either go to someone else with Chucky, or they should have brought back Alex Vincent for it. You could have done two different things, and they didn't do either of them, and they kept still trying to go the whole Andy Barclay route. Now, this is kind of an inverse with 2019 and with Cult of Chucky for me, in that the movie is like, it's okay for the beginning and it kind of goes, but then at the end, like the kill on Chucky, great. One of the great horror kills on a villain in all of horrordom. I love the way this movie ends. The movie ends just obliteration. Chucky has a lot of those, but this is a great ending with a great kill. It's just everything through the movie is like, okay, well, why are we doing this? Like the story with Andy Barclay, that should be done by now, but it's not. And it just kind of, okay, here we are. Kicking off the top half of this ranking, we have Curse of Chucky, the first straight-to-home release from the Child's Play franchise. This movie, everybody was nervous about it because you're like, okay, they finally did it. Child's Play, Seed of Chucky, they completely just fucked the whole franchise, and okay, they're going straight to DVD. This is going to be trash, and just the whole thing is just muffed. Then Curse comes out, and Curse actually tries to be scary again. There's real good, legit tension in this. The chili scene, all the stuff with Nika and the fact that she's in a wheelchair, which was a great idea. I love that. You get some plot twists on some of the romance in there, which was fun and just added to, like, the lighthearted wasn't too lighthearted. But what really made this movie for me, and I wonder if that's really why it's sticking with me as being so good, because I did rewatch it and I enjoyed it just as much. The way this was billed, at least to my memory, was that this was a reboot. We're going to try Chucky again, but we're going to have it be a completely different story, but kind of the same-ish background, but it's not going to be right after Seed. Like, we're going to go back and it's going to be something different. And then you get the scene where they're picking at the lip. She's picking at the lip, and you see that it's the stitches. And I remember just being like, what the fuck? And then you immediately know this is a continuation. And then how they worked Nika into being originally part of Chucky's story, and how we get moments before the original starts, and how Nika's mom was originally trapped by him, and that's why she's in a wheelchair, because he tried to fucking stab her. I ate that up. I continue to eat that up. When you can do something interesting like that, and you bring it in on, what is that by that point? Number 6 or 7? Number 6. And you can do something cool and fresh like that, the series, to make it matter. To me, that's a win. That's a big win. Curse does a very good job. And it's only at 4 because of how much I like these other ones. Now, for the third spot on this ranking, we have Bride of Chucky. This is the movie that kind of did a perfect balance between silly Chucky and brutal Chucky. And what succeeded so well with brutal Chucky for me, which is interesting because the whole storyline kind of just started to grow thin with me as the movies went on, was Tiffany. Especially on the last watch. Tiffany is a great addition to Bride of Chucky. Jennifer Tilly playing that role and how that role unfurls through the movie is awesome. The whole angle that she loves Chucky, but he is an abusive prick the whole time. He is nothing but an asshole to her. Not only have we seen him be an asshole for 3 movies before this, but you now have a different look at Chucky that, like, there's no redeeming factors about this guy. He is just an absolute garbage bin of a human on top of being a murderer. Like, he's not just a murderer, but, oh, hey, he plants flowers and yada, yada, yada. No, he is a prick to the woman that loves him more than anything else in this fucking world, and he also murders people. Chucky is just ass by the end of this. But also, it gives us one of the best looks for Chucky. Stitch Up Chucky is a great look. I had no idea how they were going to bring him back after 3, and he gets his shit split, but that look and that opening, it's beautiful. I love it. It's silly, because you're like, oh god, $2 are banging, but it's fun. It's fun and it's chaotic fun. That's the trick with some of these movies, is if you're going to be fun, it has to be good chaos and not too silly. You get a little too silly in here, but it's good silly. It's bloody silly. Coming in at the silver medal spot, we have the 1988 original Child's Play. Now, for me, this is a movie that over the years and over the rewatches, I've liked more and more and more and more. Probably doesn't hurt that I'm a dad now, since I've been watching this more and more. And I have such a bigger respect for the relationship between Karen and Andy Barclay and Alex Vincent as Andy Barclay. I mean, just tear your heart out what happens to this kid, and then you have this asshole who is literally framing this kid for murder. Like, you're a shithead, and I know I've talked about how he's a shithead with how he treats Tiffany, but this is like off the bat. Dude, you're framing a kid for murder, and then you're going to try to take over his body. You kill one of your best friends with a voodoo doll. I understand blowing up the house. I get that. The dude sold you out. I get that on a twisted kind of level. But you have just tear your heart out moments. Alex Vincent crying, worried that Chucky's going to kill him, sneaking out. It's so good. It's so good. But even though it is so good, it's not the favorite one for me to put on and watch on any given day. That honor goes to, and you already know if you've been paying attention by this point, Child's Play 2. This movie takes everything 1988 does and cranks it up. Gives us another good guy in Kyle. It takes Andy Barclay and it makes him on the offensive against Chucky, which I really, really like. If you've seen anything I've ever reviewed, ever, if there's a movie where all of a sudden they're like, know what? Fuck this guy. And they're going after him. I love that. I love the twist on the cat and mouse game. Andy Barclay does this a lot, and he does it well. Alex Vincent, I should say, does it well as Andy Barclay. You believe that he is done. He's like, I'm done being a victim. I'm going to fucking kill this guy. And he goes after him. On top of that, you get a lot of good kills. And you also get, in those kills, you get a whole bunch of they have it coming kills. But also you have they didn't have it coming kills. Which I like when those happen. I want to feel a little bit. Sometimes I want Carnage Candy. Sometimes I want Bride of Chucky, where I don't give a shit about most people, except for David. But sometimes I want to go on a little bit of an emotional journey. And Child's Play 2, for me, does that. You have some throwaway kills. You have some kills that matter. And then you have a great finale in the Toy Factory. One thing I love so much about Child's Play 2, and I don't see a lot of people talk about this, is that really, for all intents and purposes, Chucky wins. He wins. Straight out. He gets Andy down. He does the whole voodoo spell. But he's been in the body too long. That's awesome. He won. It adds so much tension to that because you're like, holy shit. Somebody stop him, somebody stop him, somebody stop him. And nobody stops him. He does the whole thing. Andy gets lucky. Chucky wins. And then you have just an awesome ass kicking on Chucky. He gets messed up all over the damn place. All over that factory. And literally all over the ceilings, walls, blood, guts. Just, he's everywhere. It's a great finale. Great finale. And then to me, I always kind of laugh at it. Great finale, all this stuff. And then it's just credits. No resolution. That was the end of the story. It makes you wonder, because I don't know much behind the scenes, makes you wonder if this was kind of what happened with Halloween, where it's like, okay, we did 2 and we're done. But then 2 did really good and they're like, okay, shit, we're going to do more. And that's how they came up with Child's Play 3. Don't know. Makes a lot of sense to me. Now, if you're looking for a more in-depth look into how and why I feel, how I feel about the Child's Play franchise, look in the description below. I'll have links to all of those. And I also mentioned that I made a video about how I would change the Child's Play remake. That'll be down there as well. Go check that out. For being honest, I think it's pretty damn cool. I will see you very soon to talk about episode 1 of the Chucky TV series. But until then, take care.